I'm strong in faith.
Faith can move mountains. Radio Maria, 91.3 FM.
The voice of truth.
Good evening, Abuja. How are you all doing today? How have you been since the last time I was with you? I hope you're all good. Are you at home already? Are you on your way home? Wherever you are, just relax, chill, and spend the next 1 hour with me, won't you? My guest this evening is Reverend Father Anthony Azuwike. He's a Catholic priest of the Catholic Diocese of Issele-Uku.
Sure.
That's in Delta State.
Absolutely.
Yes. You were ordained in September of 2001. You were born in Ibusa in Delta State. Attended the Seminary of Ss, Peter and Paul, Bodija, Ibadan, where you bagged the Bachelor of Arts degree in philosophy. You're welcome to the program, Father.
Thank you very much. Sisi?
Yes.
I'm used to calling you Auntie Bunmi.
Yes. You're welcome. You're welcome to journey through life. We're going to journey through your life, an accomplished life it is. And I'm happy that you agreed to come and spend this hour with us, because I know how busy you are. You are a priest, you're a lecturer, you are so many things, right?
Sure.
You've also come, Father, with some soundtracks to your life. The first soundtrack to your life is Hail Queen of Heaven, the Ocean Star, Guide of the Wanderer. I'll play that for you now. Hail Queen of Heaven. Father, why is that a soundtrack to your life?
First of all, thank you for inviting me.
My pleasure.
Sisi Bunmi. Growing up as a young Catholic boy, Mother Mary was the central and is the central aspect of our spirituality as a family. And then, of course, my personal spirituality as I grew up, went to seminary and what have you. And I fell in love with a lot of Marian hymns, but for some reason, this one stood out to me.
Why?
I think because very earlier on in my priestly ministry, I was a chaplain in a Catholic secondary school, or rather a secondary school owned by a Catholic couple. But the bishop sent me there as the first chaplain in that school.
This was in Issele-Uku.
In Issele-Uku, in Asaba. Actually, Infant Jesus Academy, Asaba. Okay. So, among other things, I taught the kids songs, for masses and all of that. And they were in their very formative years. So I took it upon myself to, guide them through, Catholic worship, Catholic ethos, and everything Catholic. So, and I remember teaching them this song. And I watched the children sing it with so much devotion. And one thing that ministering to people does for us priests is that very often the people's spirituality and devotion challenge your own devotion and faith, from time to time. And so a priest can actually be edified by ministering to people, especially people who are really devoted in their faith. So I saw the children sing that song with very high sense of devotion, when it comes to Hail Queen, we kneel. You see the children kneeling. I still remember those pictures of the children kneeling in the middle of that song. So I took time to go through all of the wordings of that song, and it made a lot of meaning to me. And of course, as a lover of Mother Mary, it stands out as one of my favorite Marian songs. Yeah, I have several. I love several, but this one kind of stands out.
One of the main ones, yes. You were born in Delta State, but you went to school in Bodija in Ibadan. How did that happen?
Well, there are so many seminaries now that I can't even keep up. But in our time, St. Peter and Paul Seminary in Bodija was the seminary that the entire old Lagos province sent their seminarians. Just like Bigard Memorial Seminary in Enugu used to be the seminary, the entire old Onitsha ecclesiastical province sent their seminarians. Okay. So Issele-Uku diocese happens to be within the old Lagos province. Now it's under Benin province. So my bishop, automatically sent me there right after minor seminary. That's how I landed in Ibadan.
So did you learn the language while you were there?
I did. I actually started learning, very much. I had a notebook that I was writing it down. So I still speak some of the Yoruba that I picked up that time, but it's some of my best kept secrets. I don't speak it anyhow.
Well, so I don't blame you because
you don't know that
because you've been around the world now since then.
Yeah.
You were ordained in, like I said, September 2001.
Yes.
And you were very young. You were just 25 when you
absolutely.
Yes, you were quite young. You know, and then you went on to America, to the United States of America from 2006. Yes. You were there for 6 years.
Well over that. Yes. Well over that.
And then, because you then went to UK for your master's, I believe.
Yes.
And then you went back to the US.
Exactly.
So you were out of the country for about 11 years.
Exactly.
So I don't blame you for forgetting your Yoruba.
I didn't forget it. Like I said, I keep it as a secret so that when I need it,
yes.
I just
Thank
pull
you
it
for
out.
telling me that, so that I will not say anything that So you were a diaspora priest. You were a parish priest in America.
Yes.
As such a young, I would say young still.
Yes.
So how did that happen? How did it become an actual parish priest, not an assistant parish priest?
No, I was. Well, I want to give it all to divine providence. I went to the United States on an F1 visa. That's
what's an F1 student?
Student visa.
Student's visa.
Yes. Yeah. So I actually went to study, and this was in the New York area. I went to Fordham University. That's actually the school I applied to that got me into the United States. But somehow I didn't quite like New York. It was a little too much for me, so I needed something a little less too much New York, big city coming from a country,
Ibadan,
Issele-Uku,
yes,
it was a little too much.
Too fast.
Yes, too fast, too everything, So somehow I found myself in the diocese of Memphis in Tennessee. Yes. So, and on getting there, I found almost like a different country. Whereas in New York, it was difficult to even get into a parish, especially coming with a student visa, not a worker visa, which meant that your bishop, had an arrangement with the bishop there, which sent you there. I went to study. So you had to go in and convince them that you're here on a student visa, that you want to work in a parish because you are a priest and all of that. So it wasn't so easy like that, especially in the New York area, But somehow Providence took me to Tennessee, and when I got to Tennessee, from that atmosphere of, man, there are too many of you here. We don't have anything for you. To, welcome. Thank you for coming to help us.
Wow.
It was amazing. And it just took a matter of days, and they said, well, the priest in this parish is going back to Nigeria for...
Oh, he was a Nigerian
priest too?
Yes.
Yeah. Actually, he was the one who, brought me over there.
Okay.
Yes.
He told you about Tennessee.
Yes. So I went over there and said, well, the priest is going away. Do you mind staying for him till he gets back? I said, sure. So I stayed. And then one thing led to another. Within months, he had to move on to Rome to study. And then the bishop said, Father Anthony, you just take it over.
You just have to stay.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
and you were still studying, of course.
Yes.
So you were studying, but you were full-time parish priest. That is fantastic.
Exactly. So
and you did that initially for 6 years.
Yes. And then I stepped away into the United Kingdom because I always wanted to study law. Yes, I always wanted to study law. So whereas I was enjoying pastoral ministry in Tennessee, my heart was set on going to study law.
And you couldn't do that in Tennessee?
I could, actually. But, coming from here, Nigeria, I kind of understood a little bit the mentality of my people. So I didn't want to go to law school in America where when you come back with a JD, which is what they get, instead of an LLB in the USA, you get a JD, Juris Doctor. Yeah, Juris Doctor. So I wanted an LLB, which they will be familiar with in Nigeria. And of course, I knew that the whole common law system began from England. So I wanted to go to the root of it, to the source of it. So I gave up the parish. The bishop wasn't too happy. Yes.
I bet he wasn't.
Because I had spent 4 years already. So he actually begged me to put in 1 more year at least. So I agreed. Because, your joy and peace as a priest lies in obedience to the bishop. Even though he wasn't my home bishop, but hey, you are in his diocese, so automatically he becomes your bishop. So
how does the community there compare to the community in Issele-Uku? I mean the parishioners that you have dealt with. What was were there similarities? Obviously there were differences. So when you compare those two communities, what would you say?
What I can say to that is that the only thing that was common is just that we're all Catholic. Every other thing is different. Yes. Here, when you preached for maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, here, some people, now it's changing. Remember, I left in 2006. So before that time or around that time, if you preach for 10, 15 minutes, people are more likely to say, oh, he was not prepared. Because they expect you to preach for 20, 25, 30 minutes.
1 hour even.
Yes, if possible, in some places. But there, if you preached more than 10, 15 minutes, it could be a problem. Because in their mindset, Mass is 1 hour. But luckily for me, I didn't have a boss. I became a parish priest immediately. So my Masses were at least 1 hour 15, 1 hour 20 minutes. And nobody had to trouble me. But if you were an assistant parish priest, and your Masses were beyond 1 hour, you're already calling for trouble.
Really?
Because most of it is, it's not that they don't like the spirituality. You have to understand, it's an organized country with a lot of regimented, systems. So if Mass was 9 to 10, they will expect you to finish by 10. So that people who are in the parking lot will drive off and other people drive in. And then the other Mass can start at 10:30. Yes. So if you push that Mass to 10:30, you already cause a gridlock at the parking lot. Exactly. And the parish priest doesn't want to deal with that. But luckily for me, it wasn't a huge parish. It was a rural parish, not a lot of people. And I had an outstation. So we started on Saturday evening, 4 p.m. in the main parish. Then I would drive 17 miles to the outstation and said Mass at 5:30. So I had to finish at 5 to be able to get to the other side at 5:30.
And you still had to study.
Yes. It wasn't very easy. But I was way younger than this. I was just like 31.
Did you experience any prejudice?
I like to say no, to be honest. Tennessee, at some point, I was saying the 5 years I spent in Tennessee as pastor of a parish was the best 5 years of my life.
Interesting.
Yes. Because I can't tell you I experienced prejudice. Of course, there must be people who are prejudiced. But I didn't see it. Either because I was not looking, or the love was so massive that I didn't notice the little negativity.
The love from the people to you and me. From you to them.
Exactly.
That's fantastic.
It was so we're like a family. We're like a family. We celebrated together. We mourned together. We, everything together. I was immersed in the life of the people, because you have to realize I was the only priest in the parish. I was the only black person in the parish. Yes, I was the only African in the parish. So I would say that sometimes I forgot myself in them. But
so you never thought of, I better make this place my home. I'm not going back to Nigeria.
No.
Did you ever think of that?
No, I didn't think of that.
Home was still always in the heart.
Yes, I did not think of that. And I can give you a reason.
Go ahead. Yes.
Yes. I know it's very attractive, and people don't always consider coming back. but it was almost like a spiritual covenant I had with God, because I prayed a lot before I went to the United States, because it was my plan, personal plan, which I approached the bishop and he agreed. So I prayed a lot, because for you to be able to do that, go and tell your bishop that you want to go to school abroad, as at that time, so it was a huge privilege for my bishop to say yes, So in the course of praying and trying to figure out this journey ahead of me, I had some spiritual experiences which convinced me that the covenant was go there, get what you need to get, come back home.
And thank God you did.
Yes.
Because you came back in 2017 and you were called to the Nigerian bar 2018.
Yes.
And at that point you became a father-in-law.
Yes, that's really funny.
So you became a father-in-law in 2018.
Exactly.
Did you practice at all before?
No, because practice was not always in my mind. I always wanted to be an academic lawyer. Not that I'm against practicing. No, it's there as an option. But my first choice would be to be an academic lawyer. To
impart knowledge.
And I went to some of the best schools, in law. So I needed to pass that down. And that's part of that spiritual covenant with God.
And suppose it comes from the earlier on in your career when you were teaching in that school.
Yes.
When you were teaching the young people the hymn.
Absolutely.
So it's still,
That school.
So the seed was sown there, probably, yes.
Yeah. My ministry in Infant Jesus Academy in Asaba actually was the ministry that revealed to me that this is my vocation, within my vocation, the teaching ministry. I've always thought about it, but going to that school to teach for those few years convinced me that this is what God is calling me to do in the priesthood. Yes.
So what inspired you to become a priest?
Well,
you smile.
Yes, I do, because I get that question a lot. I'm sure most priests do get that question. Yes. I have a funny experience as regards that. When I started my major seminary formation at St. Peter and Paul Seminary, not Ibadan, but in Eboma. That's the spiritual year portion of it. When we were there, it was St. Peter and Paul, but now it's St. John of the Cross Seminary in Eboma, in Edo State. So when I went there as a spiritual year seminarian, this is one of the questions that one of our lecturers asked us in our first days in the class in that seminary. Why are you here? Why did you decide to become a priest? So I heard a bunch of reasons why people wanted to, I remember one said, well, the path to our house, went through the side of a rectory, priest house. And every time I was going home from there, I would smell the eggs, being fried. So perhaps he was drawn to the smell of the eggs. Yes, and some said...
Did he make it as a priest?
He did.
He did?
He did. I remember. So some said, well, I was an altar boy, and so I just wanted to...
So what did you say?
Actually, they didn't ask me personally, but I knew my reason.
What's your reason?
As a little boy, even till date, my parents never missed Mass. I spoke to my dad last Sunday, and I asked him, did you go to Mass? Just routine question. He said, of course, as long as I can get up from bed, I would go. I know that. And he's 90 years old. 90 years old.
Wow.
So, and growing up, I never saw my parents miss Mass. And of course, we went as a family.
How many siblings do you have?
I have two now, but we were four. Yes, I lost one. So, as a child,
and what are you in the rank in? First, second, middle?
My late sister was first. Then I'm second. Then I have two boys.
So it's three boys. So it was three boys and a girl.
And a girl.
And a girl.
Yes.
So it's not just three boys.
Yeah. Yeah, just the 3 boys now. So, as a family, we will go to mass. And my dad was a principal, and that was in Imo State at the time. So he was always posted to some rural places that were outstations. So, and you know how it works, down there. Maybe you have 2 or 3 other outstations. So the priest is always in a hurry, and he would come running to our outstation. This was like a childhood experience, not just an isolated incident. I saw that quite a bit. And then, with the cassock, with the cape, so he's always coming very quickly and fast, and then he will genuflect or he will bow, and the cape, the cape on the cassock will just, fly up, and I just loved that. Believe it or not.
Really? As a child?
Loved it.
How old were you then?
4, 5, 6, 7.
Interesting.
I loved it.
It's interesting because with our new Pope,
yes,
now, when I listened to an interview with his brother, and they said when he was just like your parents,
yes,
their parents were very devout Catholics and all that, and that he used to even play roles, he used to pretend that he was a priest and all that as a young boy.
Yes.
About that age. So it's interesting how you can be that influenced at such a young age.
Yes.
And you don't lose that.
And believe me, I did all of that. I said mass with my brothers. They were my altar boys. Set on the table. Yes. So we did all of that. I still remember. I had one big danchiki in this, like 1,500.
That was your cape.
That was my chasuble. that was my chasuble. So yes, faith comes by hearing, but also there's a power to vision, to seeing. So seeing priests,
yes,
and the priestly garb.
And I also think because of your parents, the background of always taking you to mass, I think that was the most influential part of the whole thing, because you were exposed, you were in that environment, you were immersed in it almost.
Yes,
but I'm
absolutely.
going to play the second soundtrack to your life.
Okay.
You shall cross the barren deserts, you shall not die of thirst.
Yeah.
That's another hymn.
Yes.
There seems to be a pattern, to your, your interest in music. There seems to be a pattern to it.
Absolutely.
Tell us about the second one.
Okay. That song says,
you shall cross the barren land,
yes,
the deserts, barren
yes,
deserts.
Be not afraid. That's actually the title of that song. Be not afraid. I go before you always. Come follow me, and I will give you rest. And the first verse says, you shall cross the barren desert, and you shall not die of thirst. You shall wander far in safety, though you do not know the way. You shall speak your words in foreign lands, and all will understand. That music, that song struck a chord with me in the United States. As a young priest, never been anywhere outside Nigeria, found myself in the United States. Just a few months after, I became a pastor in the Deep South. Not in your regular cities of New York or Chicago, or in the Deep South, in the country, redneck country, as some of them would say, And there, I found so much love. I found so much attention from people. And, most Americans are not patient with us when you have a thick Nigerian accent. Sometimes they want to almost not listen to you. But I could speak and they will understand. And I crossed the barren desert. Think of the distance from here to the United States. You shall not be afraid. I was not afraid. Despite how young and inexperienced I was in the priesthood. So that song became my song. From the American perspective, it was wonderful.
Fantastic.
I still love that song. Every time I hear it, I think of my experience in the United States.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
You're listening to Journey Through Life with me, your host, Sisi Bunmi. My guest this evening is Reverend father-in-law.
Priest and lawyer, right?
Yes, priest and lawyer. I'm calling him father-in-law, yes. Anthony Azuwike. He's a lecturer at Veritas University. If you want to join this conversation, please do so by calling on 081-084-47518. You can also send a text message Are you a student? Are you listening? Call us and let us know the kind of lecturer that he is. Thank you. So what are the most rewarding aspects of being a priest and a lecturer?
Well, let me take it bit by bit. First of all, being a priest, just like the song we just shared, you shall wander far in safety, in plenty, though you do not know the way. The priesthood is the most privileged position that I think anybody can think of. In the sense that wherever you go, as long as there are Catholics there, you can be sure you will find some love and acceptance. Even if there are no Catholics there, once you declare, I'm a priest, most times everything changes. And I find that as a very high privilege. One of the blessings that God has attached to the ministry that He has bestowed to us. And then, of course, I thought about this ministry of teaching so much in my earlier life that when I went to study, I tailored everything toward coming back to teach an academic, by, of course, giving a good account of yourself, learning, the materials, and also learning how those who taught me, how they taught. So you pick up from some of your best teachers in the hope of bringing it into the classroom yourself. And every time I do that, the teaching ministry becomes an extension of the altar for me. So it's not just, for me, one of those things you do, he's a priest and he's a lecturer. No, the classroom, to me, is an extension of the altar.
Of your ministry.
Yes.
Yeah,
when I go from
makes sense.
Yes, from the altar in the morning, into the classroom by mid-morning,
So what challenges? There must be some challenges, being a priest and a lecturer. Do you have any challenges? Peculiar ones, and how do you deal with such challenges?
Well, I must be honest. Life is not a bed of roses, but when you are living in the will of God, you almost live like there are no challenges. I'm not saying that there are no challenges, but you don't focus on them to where you begin to lose your balance. And my personal motto, if you like, is in His will is our peace. In His will is our peace.
I like that. I think
if you're living in the will of
that.
God, yes,
I'll borrow
you're
that.
free to, without any copyright.
So do you still say mass as a
Of course.
Say mass?
In fact, the mass is the most important thing to me in my life, and I love the mass. Is number one, and that's the reason why I became a priest. I saw priests coming to say mass. I loved their outfit. I wanted to be like them, and then, of course, to do what they do, which is primarily say mass. That's our primary job. Every other thing files behind that.
So how do you address the concerns of people who may be struggling with their faith, having issues with their faith?
As Catholic people?
Yes, as Catholics, yes, who are struggling with their faith. How do you address the concern of such a person?
Well, again, faith comes by hearing. And one of the...
We have a caller. Yes, good evening. What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Ambassador Issele-Uku.
Okay, you're welcome to the program. Do you have any question or comment for Father?
I must start by saying that Father Tony is a wonderful man.
Oh, you know him?
Yeah, I know him far back, almost 25 years. Father Tony buried my late mother in Asaba, St. Patrick's Catholic Church.
Oh, wow. But he didn't kill him, he just buried him.
He comes to the house every day in Asaba to give my mother communion when she was sick.
Oh, fantastic. Wow.
He buried my mother. That I will never forget. He was with us throughout. Then I was very sick. I was just discharged to come and bury my mother. He encouraged me. So he was one of those that was there for us in our darkest time.
Thank you.
I will never ever forget him. I call him my brother. He calls me auntie. I'm his big auntie.
Thank
Of
you.
course you are.
Thank you for that call. Thank you very much.
We are proud of you. Keep
Thank
the good
you.
works.
Thank
you
you.
very
Thank
much.
you. Thank
Well
you.
done.
Thank you.
Sisi Bunmi, well done.
Thank you. Thank you for
Your
calling
program
me.
is so inspiring.
Thank you. Keep listening
love
to
you.
love you too. Thank you very
Bye-bye.
much. Thank you. Bye. Oh, you have a fun out there.
I tell you
Yes. Keep listening to Radio Maria 91.3 FM. You can call in 081-084-47518. So, Father, how has your personal faith journey shaped you? Has it shaped you, your personal faith journey? Has it shaped the person that you are today, the priest that you are today, the lecturer that you are today?
If you don't mind, I would like to go back.
We have another call. Good evening. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Good evening.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Artist Sisi Bunmi,
Yes.
and you have very good gifts.
Yes. What's your name, sir? What's your name, sir?
Father and brother.
Sir?
He is my very dear father and brother.
Okay.
Yes, my name is Edward Oga.
Oh, you're welcome to the program, sir.
Good evening, sir. My Lord Justice.
Yes. Do you have a comment or a question for Father?
The life of Father is quite inspiring. And it's good to know that he is a preacher, a missionary down to earth. You can even hear from the last caller the testimony. His work at Veritas is in fact, we are aware of whatever he has been doing at Veritas as a lecturer. And his own work with the Catholic Lawyers Association is profound, and we appreciate him for that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Every missionary should live like a missionary. You can imagine how he went abroad. He was the only African in the entire parish, and he wasn't living like a foreigner. He was living like one of them. Exactly what St. Paul taught.
And he's still living like one of them, because we were at a picnic. We were at a picnic. My president. We were at a picnic recently. Are you still on the line?
Yes, I'm still on the line.
Yes, and while we're all having a good time putting litter everywhere, Father was going around. I was watching him. He was picking all the litter. He couldn't bear to see litter. And I was like, this is an American. This man, this was disturbing him. He was going around picking all the litter. I noticed that, Father. Yes.
I know.
Thank you. Thank you.
Keep it up.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you for calling.
Thank you. I appreciate your call.
Thank you. He said he prays for you. So people pray for a priest too.
Absolutely.
Or, lay people, not your fellow brother priests.
We need your prayers all the time. Yes. Yes, your prayers keep us going. Your faith inspires us.
That's interesting, because you always assume that he's the priest that prays for you, and so lay people also pray for you.
Yes.
That's interesting to know.
Exactly.
Yes. So I was asking you before the call, how has your personal faith journey shaped you?
All right. And I was trying to crave your indulgence to answer the previous question before the first caller, before I get into this one, because I think it's important we speak to those who are struggling in their faith. And I was trying to say earlier that one of the good Catholic traditions that we must revive and sustain is the idea of having spiritual directors. Of course, it's taken for granted that the parish priest is the default spiritual director of every parish that you find yourself, and of all the parishioners. But there's something about personal connection. So we need spiritual directors. You can call them spiritual mentors. So anyone who is struggling, your best immediate bet would be to go to somebody who is spiritually more fortified than you, who can guide you, talk to you, pray with you, and encourage you. Everyone needs a guide. You can't overgrow it. At my age and stage in the priesthood, I have a spiritual director. Sometimes it could be even personal weight of life or work, and I call him. I say, Father, are you available? I'd like to talk to you. Yes, and he has done a lot for me. Yes, my spiritual director. So if you are struggling in your faith, go and seek out someone who can help you, in form of a spiritual director and a spiritual mentor. And then to the next question, how my personal journey, faith as we say even in the Penny Catechism, is a spiritual gift, which only God can give. And I want to say that I'm very grateful to God because I believe I've been blessed with a lot of faith. If we had all the time in the world, I could, tell you a few more of my life journey, which is nothing but a life of faith. I've just, taken leaps of faith every time. Sometimes with no money, sometimes with no, clear idea of where the privileges would come from, but you just go, and then God is there with you. God is there with you. So I have come to the point in my life where I don't worry about nothing. I don't worry about anything. The only thing I worry about perhaps is the insecurity in Nigeria. I hope it doesn't, catch up with you. But if it's, what to eat, what to drink, where to live, where to go, I don't worry about those because I know that God has always provided.
Yes.
And he never fails.
I agree. So, Father Anthony,
yes.
How do you reconcile your faith as a Catholic priest with the complexities of the world as we are now? So, how do you reconcile being a Catholic priest with the complexities of everything going on? How do you reconcile that?
Well, the truth is that I am very, very grateful to my seminary, St. Peter and Paul Seminary in Bodija, where I went. And of course, my minor seminary was another very old seminary and very solid seminary, St. Peter Clever Seminary in Opala, in the Archdiocese of Owerri. That's where I started, at age 10, my journey, and then moved over to Bodija right after. These two seminaries, I must say, prepared us for whatever laid ahead. Because, of course, one of the Greek philosophers said that the only thing that is constant in life is change. And because of that, I think the church knows, because of course the church loves philosophy a lot, as we love theology. The church knows that change would occur. Change will be constant. So the church prepares her priests to be able to keep up with this changing world without losing yourself. So you are always, that's why I describe the church as always ancient and modern at the same time. I think the priest should be ancient and modern at the same time.
I like that.
Because if you don't take time, you want to keep up with the world, you might lose yourself. So you need to be firmly planted, have your feet firmly planted, while at the same time navigating whatever changes, that come upon you.
So, Father, what is your favorite parable that Jesus shared and why? What is your favorite parable of Jesus and why?
The parable of the prodigal son.
Why? Can you tell me briefly why?
Because all of us, even the best of us, could pass for a prodigal son. What have we not done as people? As a country, as institutions, as individuals, as families, what have we not done? But the moment we pick up and say, I am going back to my father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. And guess what? The amazing thing is that every Catholic has this opportunity to pick up and go back to the Father. If not every Saturday, every day.
That's confession.
That's exactly, the sacrament of reconciliation.
Yeah.
Or everywhere you see a priest, you have that privilege. You can go back to the Father through that sacrament very easily. A contrite heart and a repentant spirit.
So you can approach a priest anywhere to do confession?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yes.
I'm going to do mine after this show then.
I don't mind.
So what's your favorite miracle of Christ? The favorite one that...
raising Lazarus from the dead.
Why?
Because as one who has experienced grief from bereavement.
Of your sister?
Yes.
Losing your sister. How
Absolutely.
old was she when
she
you
was 42.
Oh, yes. Married with children and all that.
She was married but no children. Yes. And it was very devastating for me and my family. So I could imagine Jesus walking into that family of ours at that time and raising my sister. So I put myself back in this position of Mary and Martha, how Jesus gave them back their brother in the midst of their grief. I mean, I can't even begin to wrap my mind around the joy that they would have felt, you know. So I can relate to that parable, especially as one who has experienced grief in my life.
I'm going to ask you, a question now. Maybe it's controversial. I hope it's not. Have you ever listened to confession that so scandalized you felt like maybe reporting to the police or something?
Absolutely not.
Really?
No. Because the truth is that even sitting there as a priest is a high privilege. I'm not sitting there on my own accord, in persona Christi. And at the end of the day, this person is like that prodigal son I spoke about a minute ago, who is seeking the face of the Father. So I feel privileged to be the instrument to bring this person back to the Father. So
nothing scandalizes you. You've never heard anything that scandalized you.
No.
But, that's interesting. I think it comes with your training as well. It comes with the training as a priest.
Of course.
So there's nothing that's interesting.
And a lot of grace too. A lot of grace. Because most times when you walk out of there, you don't even remember anymore. You know.
Father, what major life lesson have you learned? What major lesson has life taught you? As a lecturer, as a priest, as a son, as a brother, as a friend? I have learned so much in life, to be honest, that I can't even identify. But let me just pin it down to my current struggle. Which is?
As a Nigerian, as a priest, as a lecturer, that your biggest assumptions in life will be challenged. You know, for instance, you think, well, the truth is the truth. You have to say the truth. The truth is the truth. But I have learned that today, people no longer value the truth as much as I was taught to value it. So if you're speaking the truth, you see yourself sometimes in a turmoil. I was raised to believe that, the truth will get you places. You know, speaking the truth, like if you don't speak the truth, you're a bad person, you're not a gentleman and all of that. But today, that assumption is being challenged in me. So I'm struggling with that. So is it still worth it to say, I know the truth, I know the answers, but the reality, especially of our country, Nigeria, is challenging that assumption. Does it mean that I was wrongly taught? Does it mean that society has allowed itself to just move away from the essentials?
But I think you answered that question earlier on, because you said that there are certain things that will never change, even though the times change.
Yes.
So the truth is constant.
It's constant.
Whatever else noise is out there, you know the truth.
Yes.
You know your anchor in the truth. So is that not the answer to your?
It is, but when the society around you makes you believe or begin to think that you are wrong by speaking the truth.
But you're anchored to the truth. You know what the truth is. Never going to change.
As a person, you are so convinced. That's why you stand firm on it. But when the echoes
around
that come, seem to be suggesting, hey man, you can't stand on that place for too long.
But as a priest, you stand firm on the truth.
You must.
No matter what the noise is.
You must, because I want to go to heaven. Yes.
So, Father, are you fulfilled as a priest? Do you have any regrets?
I don't know if I can say this on air without sounding like I have an air around me. What am I trying to say? That I have said to friends in private. That's why I said I don't know if I can say it on air. That if you know any fulfilled priest, here is he sitting in front of you. And I've said, even in my preaching, that if there was anything like reincarnation, if I come back again, I'm going to be a priest again.
Wow. So that's my answer then. That's my answer.
That's how much I love it.
So what do you do for fun? How do you relax?
Tennis is the most important spiritual activity for me.
Lawn tennis.
Lawn tennis. If I can play every day.
Are you a good player or just?
I play enough to enjoy myself.
That's it. You're not playing to win any cup or anything.
You know, I know enough to enjoy myself. And when I play tennis, you know, it's like a different, you know, and it keeps me healthy. You know, so I mean, it's so bad that even to go jogging outside, I don't enjoy it. You know, if it's not tennis, it's that bad. I almost don't do any physical exercise.
But tennis is all encompassing. You get everything you need.
Yes. And
but Anthony,
yes.
If Jesus comes today, are you ready?
I want to believe that I am ready, but Jesus has to show me a lot of mercy. If I'm going to make it into heaven, then he would have to show me a lot of mercy. But am I ready for him to come? What else? Yeah, he should come. You know?
If tomorrow was Judgment Day, what would you be saying in front of God?
I'll go to confession today. I get ready for tomorrow.
You think there's confession in heaven, or you go before?
I'm assuming you're talking about him coming down, you know, while we're still here. You know? I have to get myself ready.
So in other words, even though you're a priest, you're not saying that, oh, I'm holy, I'm infallible. You know, you're still a human being.
Only God is holy.
You're recognizing that
we are only striving to be like the Father.
Yes,
and we're all work in progress. Yeah. The man who says, even St. John says, you know, he who thinks, you know, he's standing should be careful lest he fall. So we can't even begin to make assumptions that, oh, I'm holy, I'm the holiest man. No, we're all work in progress.
Fantastic.
We're trying.
I'm going to play the next soundtrack to your life.
Yes, please.
Here I am, Lord. It is I, Lord. I've heard you calling in the night. I'll play that for you.
Thank you.
Here I am, Lord. We actually dedicated this to the new Pope last Monday.
Oh, really?
Yes, so, Father, why is this?
Know that.
Yes. Why is this one of yours as well?
You have to listen to the lyrics of it. You know, here I am, Lord. It is I, Lord. I have heard you calling in the night. I will go, Lord. If you lead me, I will hold your people in my heart. You know, this is just me declaring my willingness.
Is that an anthem to your life? Because, you know, he's led you, you're a missionary, you know, and, you know, he's led you to New York, to Tennessee.
Absolutely.
You know, so he's just been, it took you as a young boy to Ibadan. So that's so apt. That's like a... Exactly.
Now you know why I can relate to that song a lot. You know, that's just me saying, I'm available. Use me. Use me. And remember, in his will is our peace. So if you open your heart and open your arms and say, use me, he will send you, he will lead you, he will guide you, and you can never go wrong.
Yes. So, Father, Catholic priests are celibate.
Yes.
They don't get married.
Yes.
How do you deal with the loneliness of that?
You are supposed to be celibate, but not isolated.
What's the difference?
I just shared with you, for instance, when I was parish priest in Tennessee, you know, I lived with the people. I prayed with them as their pastor, led them in prayer, you know, anointed them when they were sick, baptized them and their children, you know, when they were bereaved, I was there. If you get busy with the community, you may have little to no time
to think about yourself.
To be idle.
You don't miss having children, your own family, all your experiences as a young boy.
Absolutely not.
You don't miss that at all.
No, I don't. I don't.
Because you're busy serving the people,
and because I'm convinced in the path I have chosen. I don't. I'm not trying to say that there are no lonely moments in the priesthood, but if are you meant to dwell on those lonely times? No. If you're lonely through the night, for instance, you're looking forward to the next morning mass. You step out and you see the beautiful people of God. You know, you celebrate with them, you hug them, and, you know, you pray with them. And if you're available, they're going to talk to you from that morning mass till evening. You know? So if you focus on the loneliness, you know, you not only make mistakes, but also you start feeling miserable. Remember, depression is real. And priests are not immune, you know, to depression. So as a priest, you also have to find ways not to be depressed. And I just told you, playing tennis is one of my therapies, you know, health, you know, everything that around this kind of. So you have to plan your ministry in a way that you make the best out of every minute.
Are you making the best out of every minute?
I think I am.
And you're enjoying
sometimes I'm a little lazy.
He's allowed. He's allowed.
You know,
He's allowed.
Yeah, as a lecturer, I should be doing more writing, and reading. But sometimes it's hard to keep doing that 24/7. So you got to take a break, and then well-deserved break. Summer is coming, and I look forward to the summer because that's my time to unwind a little bit, sit back, and then of course use the next part of it to prepare for the next semester and all of that.
So do you go back to the States a lot for vacation and all that? Do you still have friends over there?
Unfortunately, I do.
Why is it unfortunate? What's unfortunate about that, Father?
I wish I could stay home more, but
No, it's good to go there and unwind and
I have my own fair share of that.
Have you enjoyed your time with us?
Absolutely.
You sure?
Yes, I feel this is a privilege.
If I invited you, will you come back again another time?
Anytime, I'll be here for you.
We're going to send you on to continue your life journey. And I want to ask you, is there any luxury item that you cannot live without, that you have to have as you continue your life journey?
None.
Nothing?
None. Absolutely none. I like good quality stuff because they make more economic sense. If it's good quality, it's going to last long. If it's cheap, it's going to break the next minute. Then you're buying another one the next minute. It doesn't make economic sense for me. But there's no luxury. I don't even know what's luxury item. Not to talk of something you can't live without. Everything in life should be basic. But it's good to, if you can afford them, good quality stuff because it makes more economic sense in the long run.
Do you have a mentor?
Absolutely.
Who is he? Or who is she?
He's the man I refer to as my spiritual director.
And his name? Can we have his name?
Father George, I hope you won't be upset with me.
Father George, which
Father
one?
George, he's
of the Lux Terra Foundation.
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
He's been
always available. Whenever I call him, I need to talk and all of that, and he's always very open to me. He has helped me a lot, especially to navigate my settling back into Nigeria. Yes, he has always.
I can see why he's your mentor. The two of you have a kind of, similarity. So I really can understand,
I agree.
You just cut through the garbage and just, So I can see why he's your mentor.
Yes.
I'm so delighted. I'm so grateful that you agreed to be here this evening. I've thoroughly enjoyed the last 1 hour with you. And I hope sometime in the future when you've lived more, there's more to talk about. Even now, I'm sure there's more to talk about. I'd like to still draw you in here and, tap more from your wealth of experience.
Anytime.
Yes.
Anytime.
Thank you all for listening to us this evening. My guest has been Father Anthony Azuwike. He's a father-in-law, a Catholic priest, and a lecturer. He's a lawyer as well. He's been my guest this evening. Thank you for listening. I hope you join me again next week, same time, 5 p.m. In the meantime, don't touch that dial. We're going to leave you with the next soundtrack to Father's Life, which one should I have two now? Should I play the Abinchi, or should I play the You Satisfy the Hungry Heart? You choose.
Let's do home one.
Abinchi. Okay, I'll play that for you. Abinchi.
Yes, it's a beautiful communion song.
Yes.
I have fallen in love with.
Thank you. I'm going to go and do my confession with your father now. Thank you, Abuja. Thank you for listening. Do have a good evening.